Hey everybody, welcome back to Misery Point Radio. Thanks for joining me again today. And let me tell you, you're going to be glad you did, because joining us once again here in the wasteland, a man whose presence is definitely unquestionable, at least at this specific piece of time, the one and only Mr. Kelly Shaefer from Atheist, and of course now Till the Dirt. Kelly, brother, welcome back to the show, man. Honored to have you here again.
Man, thanks for having me again. It's like feels like family.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was thinking about this the other day. The first time that we chatted in this capacity, it's hard to believe now as the stuff is being released, but 2 years ago, we spent a considerable time talking about Till the Dirt and, of course, Atheist and all the other cool shit you got going. But, you know, in this era, just the way things are going, time is just flying so fast. And I can't believe that it was 2 years ago that we first visited this conversation. It's just blowing my fucking mind.
Yeah, it's been, 3 years, just about 3 years since I wrote the music. So yeah, man, I don't like that. You know, it's hard to evolve when there's that much time, when the industry takes that long. But I mean, the labels are lucky that they survived through the backlog of records that had to come out, and that were kind of, it clogged up all the arteries of the business for a number of years. So I mean, it's been a long wait, man, and I'm excited for this Friday to finally get the album out and worldwide. And you and I have talked about the record, and we became friends after our interview and met up in Seattle as well. And so you know what this means to me. It means a lot to finally get it out there, and for better for worse, see if it floats. So it's an exciting time, and I haven't made a record in 13 years. So it's kind of fun, going through this whole process again, the cycle.
Revisiting old times, old friends. It's fucking rad. Speaking of Seattle, though, by the way, I did want to thank you again. So for all you out there in radio land and podcast and video land, Mr. Shaefer here had me out as his guest in Seattle with the Atheist and Cynic on the Focus and Presence tour, which, by the way, that is just a bucket list show right there for those who are fans of old school metal, to have Atheist and Cynic on the same bill. You would have thought it would have happened a million times because of the history that those two bands have together, but it took forever to make it happen. And so not only were you guys fucking cool and the band and everybody hanging out and doing tequila and smoking a little something and having some fun, but just the shit in and of itself was legendary for me. And how about that fucking tribute to the two Seans? I mean, just what a pile of awesomeness that entire day was.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch people talk shit on the internet about Paul doing that, and it's something he had to go through. I know what it's like to lose a band member. So, I try to keep Roger Patterson's name alive on every single time we play live. I mention his name pretty much every single time. And he's been gone 32 years now, I think. Yeah, it's fantastic. And I thought the Cynic show is, just the whole bill, the whole night felt really, really cool. Having the Accused AD there was also pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because Roger Patterson was a huge Accused fan. So that was kind of an unexpected added bonus. But yeah, the whole tour, we just really had so much fun. And yeah, I just feel grateful to be able to do it. And it took 30 years. I mean, the cool thing is there was a 30 year for each of us. So 30 years for Focus and 30 for Elements. And, the way it just worked out that way is kind of indicative of our careers collectively and individually. Like we've just been, we've been lucky to do, to survive for that long, and then to finally get to go on tour together and actually stay on the same bus together. It was great.
Yeah. And, I know you and I were talking, off air, and we've had this conversation a few times, on a personal level, but, you somebody who truly enjoys the engagement, with fans or with, whatever, with media. But I think that I have been a music goer, not only because of the number of friends I have in the industry, but just, as a musician myself and as a fan of music. I don't think I've ever seen a level of personal engagement as I did with you that night in Seattle. I mean, every single person that walked by, I mean, you were grabbing their phones, you were taking pictures, you were doing videos, you were signing this. I mean, massively great. And then even just everybody else, all the dudes in Atheist, I mean, just was such a fucking refreshing thing to see. And especially in today's age where, people don't get those opportunities as often. So just watching you guys really
Thanks, man.
genuinely interact with people and not be all butthurt about it, and it's just super fucking cool.
That's what I mean. I have always said, I don't understand why anybody tours to hide out. They need to hide out in a green room or hide out on the bus. Now I also am a very social person, so I've come to be a little more empathetic about folks who have social anxiety. So I don't know what that's like. So it's not fair for me to be like, well, I don't. Everybody should be, out signing autographs and hanging out and taking pictures. But it's my wife, for example, has a lot of social anxiety. She could never, she just going to a crowded grocery store is a lot for her. So me, the more people, the easier it is. So, but I really love people. I mean, I enjoy metal people, especially, I should say, because I just feel like we're all a part of the same club. This love of music that nobody else likes, and it's this fringe. Um, and there's a lot of interesting people in metal. I mean, big, tall, little, from all the different countries. And everybody's uniting with this music. And especially atheist and cynic fans. What was great about that, and me and Paul talked about this, was that typically every other tour we've done or every other show we've done, we've always felt like the outcast of that bill, no matter what the bill is. We're always like, oh, we hope everyone will like technical shit. Because if you're playing with, bands like Suffocation or Cattle Decapitation, or, bands where everybody just wants raw, wants it to be raging, sometimes a band like Cynic or Atheist will have a tough time reaching the crowd the same. So having that bill be the both of us, we knew that everybody that was there knew what they signed up for. You know what I mean? They knew shit was going to be complicated and a little headier than normal. So that was a nice, refreshing peace of mind each night going on stage. But yeah, I mean, I don't, I can't say enough about how cool metal people are. Like, for the average person if you walked into a metal club, you'd be terrified. You know what I mean? By looking at the people that are at a metal concert. But if you had the opportunity to sit down and talk with them, you'd be stunned at the level of intellect and of depth of knowledge of history and both music and and otherwise. And just I don't know, it's fascinating to me. You see a big burly guy, looks like he would just kill everybody, and you sit down and talk to him, and he's a math teacher.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And who has this extensive knowledge of music history for the last 30 years. And I love that shit. I think it's a very misunderstood genre of music. So the more people I get to meet, the better.
You bring that up, and I was talking to somebody else about that, a while ago. But I was at a Possessed show, Possessed and False Prophet, and I was hanging out with Scott from False Prophet, and he was introducing me around, and there was all these people there, and all these crowds, and these dudes just fucking spikes and face paint and blood, and just all the people out there, just a massive mixed crowd. And I was having a conversation with this dude. He must have been 7 feet tall, just black leather, spikes everywhere, crazy shit on his face. And he's like, hey man, how's things going? It's really, and he just struck up a conversation. He had this really unassuming voice, and he was just so friendly that it was just crazy. And so a lot of the conversations I've had have just been just completely just like that. It's just so fucking cool. It just goes to show you that we all do have preconceived notions sometimes, and it's really amazing when that shit just gets blown out of the water and you're just like, oh, this is fucking rad.
I think it's almost more that way now than ever, where it's just, nobody reads the book; they just look at the cover, and it's you're missing out on a lot of good dialogue if that's the way you operate your social life. And man, I can't. I just one of the greatest things about playing music and touring and traveling is the different personalities and the different people and how they discovered your music. And that's currency to me. You know what I mean? We don't make millions of dollars to do this, and in fact it costs a lot of money. So it's those are the enrichments to me. You know what I mean? Like and it's not, it's not a put on, it's how I prefer to be. I really do enjoy people, especially metalheads. And so now there is also a time and a place for everything. When I first wake up in the morning and I step off the bus and I just need to have a cigarette and wake up. It sucks when there's somebody standing there that wants to have a long conversation. Like, so just know if you're a fan of music, like, and you're out there at like 11:30 in the afternoon, you get to the show that early, like, during the day, like before 4 o'clock, that bus is like a house. It's like somebody's house. So yeah, nobody wants to wake up and go get the paper off the driveway with your hair all crazy and, oh, can I get a picture right now? It's like, no, man, I don't want to get a picture right now, dude. I just climbed out of my bunk. I drank so much last night. I just want to have a cigarette, and you want to take a picture and put it on fucking Facebook. So there are times where that gets taxing. I mean, bless their hearts, they don't understand. I mean, they're just, hey, can I get a picture? I'm like, oh man, I got my pajamas on, literally, bro. It's gonna be on Facebook in 10 minutes. Me in my pajamas, bedhead.
Yeah, give me 5 minutes, dude. Take a shit and
Yeah,
have.
but otherwise, after sound check, man, it's all bets are off. I'm Joe Social.
Yeah. Well, you kind of said something that brings me to, I guess, where we're going. And you were talking about, judging things by the cover and not really reading into it. And so here we are, Till the Dirt, a band that people probably initially are like, I don't know how to take this. This is something that I think that once you absorb it, it will blow your mind. And this is the culmination of you trying to do something different. And it's definitely something that people will look at you and not know, for those who aren't familiar with you and your history. But that you've really done something, in other words, genre bending, but there are so many elements, not to make an atheist joke, so many elements to the Till the Dirt stuff, that it is something you can't just judge it at a first glance or even at a first listen. I mean, I've had
Right.
this now in its final capacity for quite some time, and I've probably done a dozen listens through, and I'm getting different every single time. And so you
I
had to,
love that.
yeah, you had to wait for a couple of years. This has been done. It's been in the can for a while and
Yeah,
gestating. I'm sure you were like, dude, how are people going to receive this? What's this going to do? I poured my soul into this, and now
yeah.
here. So now that it's here and it's finally out there, how are you feeling about all this?
It's man, it's very exciting because it's also the only record I've ever done where literally every piece of this is me. You know what I mean? It's like it's all of my personalities all in one. Sometimes in a regular band scenario, especially with Atheist, you have a multitude of personalities and styles that come together to sound and taste a particular way. But this particular recipe is just came out of all this frustration of being locked down, and just it became this like this human experiment with myself. And you and I have talked off the record about why is this different than an Atheist record. And I really explained it in the only way that I can is that I was drinking alcohol while I was writing it. And it sounds like a stupid thing to say, it cheapens it in a way, but it's an element of experimenting with the doors in your brain. You know what I mean? So if all you've ever done is smoked weed and or not anything done, wrote songs soberly, um, whatever works for you, whatever causes that flow to happen. So being stuck at home, really, I never ever drank alcohol at home ever. So the only time I would ever drink is when I went out social or if I was, playing a show. But writing music while even slightly intoxicated has always been like So having 3 drinks, I don't drink a lot, like I don't get crazy drink, but having 3 drinks gives me courage and a different kind of courage. And it was really fascinating for me to watch that unfold as music. So me trying different vocal styles that I would normally never try if I was in a regular state of mind. You know what I mean? Like just like when you go out to a bar, you feel more talkative. You feel it's easier to talk to if you're trying to meet somebody, or or you feel more courageous and end up getting in a bar fight, and when you really shouldn't. If you weren't drinking, you know what I mean? Like you just say things you wouldn't normally say and behave in a way you wouldn't normally behave. So that translated into this Till the Dirt record, where it's just very angry and different. And so for me, it's different within itself. The problem with waiting for like 3 years that it's taken to put this out is, um, I mean, you want to be able to write something that's timely. You know what I mean? So I hope that that's the feeling. I mean, when you listen to, modern and not sound old. And I think that a lot of people, and we also talked about this, like some people get very used to you in a particular setting. So I'm anxious about the reaction to it. I mean, it's waiting all this time for the reaction. Now we're coming to the final week. I mean, obviously the press has the record, but fans don't have the record yet. So I'm really excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah. I think, the timeliness factor, I definitely think is there. I mean, it's relevant to today as it was, 3 years ago. I can also say that having heard the demo versions of some of these songs and then now hearing them in their, I don't know, fucking full glory, uh it's just awesome. So I feel like, the anticipation, like you had that material out there, like it was put out there, some people knew about it, and you kind of teased the world with it. So I think, topically, maybe song content wise, you might have been in a different frame of mind 3 years ago than you are now. But let's just talk about the sound of Till the Dirt. It is an angry sound. It is a varied sound. It's aggressive, but at the same time, it's got so many different textures, right? So
Yeah.
I think, you've dabbled a million different ways, with your voice and different projects, Neurotica and Stone's Madness, and all this other stuff that you've done. So the people that are familiar with you as a person and just the lineage of your work over the last 3 decades or so, this is for those people who have been looking for a way to combine all of those elements into one thing and have it actually fucking work. And I think that's where people's minds are going to be blown, is not only is this different, but it works on every goddamn level. And that to me, with how many different things you tried on this album, it's just remarkable.
Thank you, man. That means a lot. It's nice to hear feedback. I because you do get close to it as an artist, what I mean? You don't really know where it stands. But the one thing I will say about this is I was able to really have a more of a third person view of this music because of the way I was writing it. And a lot of these songs came together in just one night, each song. And a lot of times I would do the vocals that night. And then I would wake up at, the next afternoon and go and listen to it in my car. And I would just be like, wow, I don't even know. It doesn't even sound like me. I mean, it sounds like a different person. And then I started thinking about why that was. And when I started thinking about, again, just when you drink and you get to a certain level of comfort at a bar, like you ever wake up the next day and be like, God, I hope I didn't say too much last night, or I hope I didn't make this person mad because I was a little too fucking tipsy or whatever. And that's how it was musically. I was listening to it like, whoa, I said that, and just this, it's just the level of screaming. I felt like was I don't know. I was the best screaming I think that I've ever on. It's my favorite screaming of mine anyway on any of the records. I wish that I was able to have tapped into that on some of the Atheist stuff. But when you combine it with this '90s vibe too, it's interesting because just things always come around, don't they? But nine that I'm not I was a part of the '90s vibe, so it's not like I was influenced by it. It's just I never ever found a way to combine my love of old Soundgarden and just Alice in Chains, all that stuff. All that stuff came out in the late '80s, early '90s, while we were doing crazy but all that time I loved that music, and so it just made perfect sense for me um, uh, to write things like that. So it doesn't seem odd to me, but I think the timing might be pretty good, because there's a lot of things about the '90s that people are seeking, in music these days. There was a level of of quality and good songwriting. At the end of the day, me and Scott Burns had a conversation yesterday, and it was like, you know what? At the end of the day, it's about songwriting. You know what I mean? It's about writing songs that people can interpret, and listenable things, and not just, whoa, that's so fast, or whoa, that's so sick, and that's so guttural, those specific things, rather than this song is amazing. You know what I mean? It's just, you know what I mean? Like, I just think it's time and extreme metal for the focus to be on more on writing great songs that'll last a lifetime, that are always listenable, and not just acrobatic. It's a lot of music these days. It's going so fast all the time, and it's so lunatic, and I just think, man, that's all cool. If you could now mix that with some dynamics, go into something something that somebody can maybe hum along to just a little bit, and not your typical normal boring clean vocal stuff. I don't think, one thing I want people to know that haven't heard the Tilted Dirt record is that, the vocals that I'm using are not typical clean vocals. They're it's more like Pepper Keenan. You know what I mean? Like, it's more of that style where it's a bluesier, grovelier, you know, um, approach to a clean vocal
Yeah,
than sort of mine. You know what I mean? I think,
it's not screaming, but there's still some throatiness to it. And you
yeah.
do so you mix it up a bit. I mean, obviously I'm here in Seattle, so some of those bands that you just kind of paid tribute to are our hometown heroes, and I am a huge fan of the extreme metal. I love the black metal, I love the death metal, I love the thrash, I love the prog technical, all that stuff. But I really was a fan and still am a fan of kind of that, late 80s, early 90s Seattle stuff. And even though a lot of the metalheads, shit on that stuff because they say, oh, it killed metal or this or that. I'm like, no, it
Well, you
did.
know what? I think that needs to be cleared up, though, brother, because I think that because I have friends that, I have a friend that plays in the band Firehouse, and I have friends that play in Skid Row, and those guys, they got killed by Seattle. But extreme metal, just kind of had played itself out a little bit by the mid '90s. You know what I mean? But I mean, when all the early Seattle stuff was happening, that was at the same time that Tampa death metal was really taking off. That was '89 to '91. That a lot of really great records were coming out in Seattle, and so I think that secretly, I think it was more about gatekeeping. I mean, back then, where oh, you can't pretend to like Stone Temple Pilots if you're into Slayer. You know what I mean? I think there was an element of that too, and nobody ever talked about it. But I think it's like this, my from the people that have heard this record so far, it's like everybody's just kind of like, yes,
Yeah.
now I can, now I can show my love for that shit, you know what I mean, amongst my friends. It's that kind of record, I think, where it's a combination of styles, of hybrid of styles, that I think is allowing people to own up to their love of, stoner rock and Seattle, vibes, and at the same time it's super fast and heavy. So, you're in blast beats, and all the things that extreme metal people love. But
Last
now
beat.
they got a secret mistress within the song. It's like, yes, I love having, I love my wife, but I also like this stripper girl. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. It's got the extra shit.
Yeah, it is kind of funny, all of the different, styles that you've approached vocally. I mean, you definitely get somewhat of an Alice in Chains vibe on some of it. You get, maybe some of the more a little heavier stuff, maybe like a little bit of Korn or Mudvayne thrown in there once in a while. And then like I'm a huge fan of, I don't know if you know the band From Hell. Yeah, From Hell, George.
Oh yeah.
There's some Alistair Sin screaming in there, which is really fucking intense. And it's just the way that you move from like a scream into a clean, I think is really what sets it apart from bands that say, oh, I'm kind of like part metal, but I'm part rap, or I'm part this, or I'm part that. It's kind of like you have this part of the song that's that, and then this other part of the song that's that. But with Till the Dirt, what you're doing is you're moving seamlessly through those things and back again. So it's not segmented. It's all really integrated, and there's hooks, there's choruses, there's all that kind of cool stuff. You know, the Outside the Spiral, for instance, just that title track, it really hits you with that kind of dissonant chording like right up front, and then
Right.
you know, your kind of the clean vocals, and then massive screams and blast beats to hit you, and it just goes back and forth seamlessly, and you just don't see that or hear that a lot in bands that are trying to combine genres or styles or what have you.
Thank you, man. My hope is that people will give it more than one listen. You know what I mean? Because anytime you do something different, it's always this huge risk. You know, but it's not like I sat down and, I mean, you know this from talking to me in the early parts of this, that this just kind of happened. You know, I didn't plan on putting a new band together. I didn't plan on any of this stuff. So it's written from an honest place, in an organic place. It wasn't like I sat down and said, you know what the world needs? A little bit of 90s mixed with some extreme, like, you know, I mean, it just wasn't even a thought. It just happened. And now I'm looking at it and trying to figure it out myself, you know, trying to figure out where it came from. And so you know, and I'm getting better and better at understanding. And you know, it just makes sense. Knowing myself, I know how, you know, how it came to be. But I hope that people will just allow themselves to, I mean, listen, this music's got to always, you know, it's got to move. It can't just stay stationary forever, you know. And I hope people will find this, and you know, help of, as I say, moving the boulder, you know what I mean? And bands trying new things. And, you know, there was just a lot of great darkness about old school Seattle. You know, there was a lot of despair and sorrow. And I love that musically. You know, I mean, that's some, that, you know, the more sorrowful the music to me, the happier it makes me, if that makes any sense. You know, like
With you.
I'm, I don't know if other people feel that way, but then when you mix that in with just like terror-filled aggression, it's a cool contrast, you know.
Yeah, definitely a cool contrast. And you know, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but you know, obviously, Scott Burns liked it enough to want to take part in this. And I'm just curious now what he is saying now that this is kind of starting to hit the airwaves and hit the world. And you know, is he as happy with the finished product as he was when he was excited about getting this going with you?
Yeah, no, he's man, you know, just had a tremendous conversation with him last night, and he's just always been in my corner, and he gives me such a reassuring feeling about things. And you know, he's just like, you know, Kelly, listen, you know, it's a fucking good songs, man. He's like, the whole fucking record is good songs. He's like, you know, everybody, he's, you know, he's kind of with me in the very beginning when I first put these songs out and kind of sent it around to some labels. Everybody came with that old guy shit, you know, like, oh, you know, I don't know, you know, in your 50s, you know, I don't know, you know, and there was every reason in the world not to fucking want to put it out, not even get calls back from people that, you know what I mean? I've been doing this a long time. You can at least return the phone call, you know. So credit to Monty Connor and Nuclear Blast for, you know, and the guys in the early days of me writing this, there's a guy named Jens Pruder um, at Nuclear Blast who I sent the music to right away, and he was very encouraging as well. So I would just say that Scott is that. He's very reassuring for me when I get worried about it. Obviously, the Friday's the big day, and he's like, listen, you know, at the end of the day, Kelly, you wrote a really great record with really great songs, and people are going to talk shit. They want to talk shit, but you and I both know that, you know, it's a good record, top to bottom, and just let it unfold, you know, and let that other shit roll off your shoulder. I can read 100 great comments, and then one will just fucking fester inside of me, you know, like for 2 days. So social media comments are very tough for me, man, because they're like children, you know, these songs to me. It's very personal, and to just to watch somebody just randomly dice up an album, you know, that means the world to you, is hard. You know, I want to Jay and Silent Bob fucking visit their front door and be like, did you say this? Did you say that this record? You know, but I can't, you know what I mean? So that's a tough thing. I don't think people realize how vulnerable artists are. You know what I mean? They may put on the persona, you know, and play on stage. I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care what anybody thinks. I do. You know what I mean? You know, I don't want to make music that people don't want to listen to.
Sure.
Um, So I make no bones about that. I want people to like it. I don't need them to like it. You know what I mean? To the point where my life is just not complete. If, you know what I mean? I've been an obscure artist my whole life, so I'm used to people not understanding or not getting what I'm putting down musically for a while at least. Sometimes it takes a while, but I hope it doesn't take a while this time. I don't have to wait 10 years for people to go, oh, fuck yeah, 90s and the fucking blast beats. Yeah. Well, there's so much more to that. I mean, I'm, just using those as examples of, because there really is a lot of things on this record, a lot of moments, that I don't know where they come from. It's going to be really fun live. I think
Yeah.
this music
And
is,
noting, when you're talking about you kind of like the vulnerability factor or, just fully investing yourself in it. I mean, you're playing guitar, you're doing the drum parts, you're arranging all this. This is pretty much your baby through and through. And of course, there's others involved at this point, but the conceptualization of this is pretty much born and executed at the raw stages from you.
yeah. I mean, I had, the original demos that I sent you were just me. I played all the guitars and then I, programmed the drums and played bass on it a little bit. Then I started, like reaching out to people. Hey man, so Yoav, for instance, our bass player and Atheist. I was like, hey man, can you lay the bass down on this song, that song? And at that point, I didn't know that it was going to be an album or a band or anything like that. So, and then, I would be working on a song and get a text from Jeff Loomis, and I was like, "Hey man, can you do a solo on the song?" Yeah, fucking 2 days later. That's the beauty of technology today. It's another way, the reason this record never could have happened in the early 2000s, because this whole record was made between people that never laid eyes on each other. I mean, like, which is really crazy. I mean, if you told somebody that back in the 80s or early 90s, you'd be like, "What do you mean? How do you write music when you're not even in the room together?" And but I had I wanted to bring in two other guitar players to play along with my guitars, so that there was a different feel, and so it had more of a band vibe, and it wasn't just me. But there's this whole record was also, it's important to note that it's far from a big money production. It's you know what I mean. Even though Scott Burns is involved, Scott was involved as a real producer. Ryan Vincent at Apollo Audio Alt in Missouri actually mixed the record. Scott worked with me on arrangements and just encouragement and, like a real producer's role as I see it, as opposed to an engineer, which is what he had always acted as that with Atheist. Because there wasn't a lot of production to do with Atheist. We knew already what the parts were going to be. And so if anything, he was producing the performances. So when we would sit down to do solos, he'd be like, yeah, that solo sucks. Do it again. Or let's try that, try that again. But on Until the Dirt, man, he was just really, he just got it, I mean, he understood it right away. And I was like, so I would just, bounce things off of him nightly, and really played a huge role in me having confidence enough to, have this prolific period of time where I wrote 25 songs in this vein. So I still haven't, it was hard just to pick the songs. Scott and I were talking about that last night, like picking 11 songs out of the 25. So anybody that likes this record, you can know that there's another record sitting right behind it, just like it.
Glad you mentioned that because that's literally right in front of me. Like you told me that there was roughly 25 or so songs. And how did that selection happen? How did you decide on those? Did Scott play any part in those being selected? And
Oh,
then
yeah.
what is happening with the rest of that stuff that didn't come to this album?
It's ready and waiting. Yeah, Scott played a huge role in that. I mean, that was because I really didn't know. I love them all. So it was really hard to pick, the right ones. And but I feel like we did. In hindsight, looking back now, Scott does it again, man. He just knows. Like, I would send him songs and he would be like, I don't know, that just doesn't sound like the other songs, Kelly. It doesn't sound like the same vibe that got me excited. And I'd be like, okay. And I would either work on that song one more time or I would just write another one. And so there, the additional songs that are there. I mean, when it comes time to make a second record, we'll just, obviously have probably more money to work with, hopefully, and I'll be able to go about the process a little differently. But I kind of don't want to. I kind of don't want to fuck with the process. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of like that, but I'll never be able to recreate a pandemic. So that's kind of why I'm really, really glad that I did write that much, because if that was a lightning in a bottle scenario, at least I've got a wealth of material sitting there for a couple of albums and an EP, which will last for 5 years. You know.
Sure. Well, there may not be another pandemic, although if I recall, at least in Central Florida, you guys got some leprosy action going on up there. So,
Lovely.
you know, leprosy never hurt anybody. It's fine. It's good. Just don't eat the armadillos. You'll be fine. Uh, yeah, so that's good to know, though, that I mean that other material is still out there in the cosmos with the potential of being
Yeah,
released.
and I also would like to release the demos at some point, because the demos are what really got Scott excited in the beginning. He was blown away at the drum sound that I had on the demos, and they were really, really good. And but they didn't quite, the blast beats didn't sound like they needed to sound. So inevitably, that's what we were like, all right, you know what, let's just bring in a drummer to play all these parts and play them just as I wrote them, and then. And so when that happened, then it started to become a band from there. And then, I asked Steve DiGiorgio, I was just like, "We pick any song you want to play on. I would love to have you on anything. I want you on this record so bad." He was kind enough to pick Spiral, Outside the Spiral, and killed it. So it's got his fretless bass on there, and it's John Longstreth really shines on this record as well, like because he's playing in a song and nobody's ever really kind of heard him play on a song like Insistent Demand. That's a weird song for John Longstreth to be drumming too. You know what I mean? So I think people will find that kind of interesting as well. And Jeff Loomis is Jeff Loomis, man. I'm excited. That single's coming out this week. It's called Privilege, and with Jeff's solo on there. Oh, it's so good. It's one of my favorite songs on the album, and there's a really cool ass lyric video that got made as well. So I'm excited. Lots of fun stuff coming
Yeah,
this
Mr.
week.
is he's kind of a hometown hero here, and though he's not originally from Seattle, his work in like Nevermore, for instance, is just is legendary, and he is known to just randomly pop into a small club and watch a show, which is really cool. You never know when Jeff's just gonna show up and hang out in the crowd. It's really fucking cool that he does that, and of course he's out there playing around with Arch Enemy and all over the world and stuff like that. But he still finds his way, back this way to hang out with us lowly folk.
Very humble guy, man. And I guess we met years ago at Waukesha County Arena when Ravage or Atheist and Cynic were playing. He was, I think, 15 years old, as he told me, and I think Roger gave him a joint. That was his story to me, and that's the first time he ever saw Atheist. And fast forward now, he's one of the guitar heroes of this genre of music. I think one of the legit top-notch guys. And but he couldn't be more humble and kind. And so we have little kids that are almost the same age, and they look very similar. They have like long curly hair. So we exchanged photos, but we talked more about kids sometimes than we do about music. So he's really become a cool friend, and somebody I admire a lot. So I was lucky, to have him on the record. And yeah, there's so many things on this thing. I can't wait to see the reaction to it, to see what people think of it. What if you had to pick a song on the record, what do you think?
Oh, I say Spiral definitely sticks in my head because just the vocal lines in that, I think, and that dink 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 dink, it's just really, really percussive. So I really like that one a lot. I actually like Who Awaits quite a bit.
Cool. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think that's really like a gloomy start, and then it just kind of, and then all of a sudden it just rips into the screams, and it just you're just, oh my god, where the fuck did that come from? So probably of all the
There's some little whispery parts in there too, which are kind of cool. I've never really done that before. Kind of a whispery vocal that's kind of new for me, and I like it. It's just I feel like now I somebody else was asking me, like, do you feel like I feel like I have all these extra colors to paint with now. You know what I mean? All these places now that I wish that I had done this a long time ago. To have an outlet for it was always either or, either really extreme or really commercial rock sort of metal like Neurotica was. Instead of combining the two, dummy, it took me all this time to, put two and two together. And but yeah,
It's
I mean, when
old,
it's fun.
old self and young self on your shoulder
Yeah,
and fucking yakking at each other. You fucking dumbass. Why didn't you do this? They go, I don't know what happened.
exactly it in my head. That's what I feel like. I feel stupid that I did it. It was right there in front of my face, like I could have seen it.
um,
But yeah, so
in
good
regards
time.
to Privilege, also, I do really like that song, and I think if there was a song on the album that has the most atheist vibe to it, it's probably
Yeah,
that because
yeah,
of specifically like the kind of that syncopated dissonant guitar work that just kind of has some of those elements to it. That was the first thing that jumped out at me. And of course, Loomis's solo style, the arpeggios and the sweeps and he just got a very easy to understand phrasing with his.
absolutely easy to follow along, and he also knows how to cap a solo. How to end it. Like, and that's important. Like, one of the things I hate about shredding solo people is that they end on a note. Like, it should always like build, 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 pow. And by the end of the solo, it shouldn't be like meandering. You know what I mean? And that's his. And he just knocked that out probably in no time at all. But it's just indicative of how skillful he is. And in that particular solo, it just climbs and climbs and climbs and climbs and pow, and explodes and then power back to the song. And that's the kind of shit. And didn't have to say anything to him. Just like, will you please do a solo on this? He sent it and I loved it. And there it is. And there's no thinking about it or sitting in the studio working on it. Or, that's the great thing about this record as well, is all these vocals that I did are all done on a handheld microphone at fucking 2:30 in the morning when I'm like feeling great. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I've gotten I started the song at 7 p.m. and now it's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like ready to do vocals. And that's how almost probably 85% of this record came to be. So the vocals you're hearing are the vocals I wrote the very same night and performed them the very same night that I wrote the music. So there's no time to sit around and think about it. And really, that what Scott, in terms of producing, there was a couple of moments where he enforced a, because he was like, we should have a double solo, like a trade-off solo. And I was like, yeah, okay. So we doubled the length of the solo. And other parts where vocally I would try something, and I'd be like, oh, is that too much? And he'd be like, no, more like that. And it would just give me confidence to, like, As It Seems, for instance, is a really risky song for an extreme metal record, just because it comes right out with this beautifully melodic, big
Starts,
chorus, and then it just goes to hell. It just goes to somewhere deep, dark, and
yeah.
gnarly, and then back to peacefulness again. So I just thought, is that too much? And he was like, fuck no, more of that. He's like, that's an amazing song. So the response to that song has been really, really good as well. I think that's the kind of song that could really kind of bridge the gap in a way, because it's also got everything. And I mean, Who Waits is another one that I feel like could pull everybody together and in agreement that all right, we can swallow this pill, this combination, this hybrid style of metal. And I'd rather make something new and different and fail than just make some boring ass record that I know, and have success, but know in my heart that I just made some boring ass music. I mean, as much as I'd love to be rich and have tons of money, I still feel good about musical integrity. And even at this age, I still feel like it's the most important currency that there is. Just be proud of the art that you make, because when you're gone, it's left behind. And so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's I do feel that, what you've taken on with Till the Dirt, I personally feel like this project is not going to be a flash in the pan project. I mean, this really feels like there is momentum behind it, but there's also just pure raw energy. And I think that, the industry gets saturated. Like, it's very cyclical, right? Just things kind of come and go and come and go and come and go. And I think really the strong part about this is just your approach to how you're blending these different sounds, these different sonic elements, and the energy that you put into them. If whether or not it's an aggressive vocal line or kind of a more laid back vocal line, you definitely get that raw emotion across the board. And so I feel like people are, especially in this area, very receptive to that kind of stuff. I feel like people want more of that. And hey, like I said, I'm a fan of the 80s and 90s. I really love that old school sound, man. Fucking throw some Obituary on there and, drag me fucking across the
Yeah.
swamp. I'll fucking bang my head all day long, you know. But once in a while, I want to mix it up a bit. And I love the fact that I can mix it up a bit in one album and
Yeah.
those things that I am getting that Jones for.
I mean, I think everybody probably hopes that they make a special record, but I do kind of somehow feel I'm getting a vibe. It feels like it could be a special record. It could be a record that kind of just moves things in a different direction. Like I was saying earlier, just every now and then a band or a record comes along that kind of just discovers new windows. That you can open for new air in a scene that does become stagnant. And I mean, and there's just a lot of just the way breakdowns and shit like that happen, and everybody was doing breakdowns in their songs, I mean, these, and so then that gets played out entirely. So then what, I mean? And I've always been the then what to me has always been songwriting, man. Just write good songs that have all the things that people love about metal in one conversation, which is what a song is to me. It's like that's why I don't like to spend weeks on a song, like, because it's just like, I mean, I want to say what I want to say, and I want to move on to the next conversation, and music has always been that way with me. Like the longer that I work on it, the more I hate it. I mean, I just rather make the statement and move on, and then look back on it and hope for the best. But I mean, some of the greatest moments in my career, personally, Mineral, for instance, from the Atheist album Elements, is less than 24 hours old when it was recorded. Like, we wrote that song literally the afternoon before,
It's
and I quickly wrote lyrics, and it's on the album. It's still in our set today. And it's we didn't have time to, do we like this song? Is this a good song? There's no time at all. It's just, it got recorded, and here it is 30 years later, and it still kills. I love that song.
I love
But
you, and hearing that was fucking mind blowing. I think the ability also to have home studios and
yeah,
be able to just work on pieces of equipment that are accessible, and you just get that I got this in my heart right now, I need to fucking spit this shit out. I think
yeah,
music and artists in general, one thing they are constantly known for is overthinking shit. And
yeah.
you'll overthink yourself to the point where you're just like, I had something good and then I fucked it up because I kept going back and revisiting it, and I didn't need to. And I don't know about you, but like I used to do like take after take after take after take after take after take, and I find with my guitar work it was getting worse. Like I was just like, fuck, and then you go back and you listen to the first three takes. Oh, fucking 30 hours later, I should have just taken the second take and called it a fucking day.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you of all people are somebody that says, I captured exactly what I wanted to at that
Yeah.
moment,
For
and
better, for worse. Yeah.
fucking right. That's the very epitome of a piece of time right there, is the fact that you snapped it, you captured it, and it's done. It's there forever, and
But I would wake up the next day and go and listen to it and just be like, who is that? Like, what? No, like, I literally, it's not a joke, man. I would just be like, that is so crazy. I would never sing like that. Normally, I would never write anything like that. And it was just so, and just, yeah, you mentioned you having a home studio. I had a friend from New Orleans named Chris Hare, who was kind enough to gift me a DAW. And I had never had a home studio or recording capabilities at all. And that was extremely important to this whole process. I never would have happened without him doing that. So kudos to him for giving me that. And so right on my laptop in a very small space, I tracked all the guitars and tracked all my vocals, like sitting right there with my little 3-year-old sitting on the couch watching Paw Patrol. And there are moments on those vocal tracks that if you were to isolate them, you'll maybe hear a little bit of Paw Patrol in the background, which I think is fucking hilarious. Like that a record that violent at times has has a little bit of Paw Patrol mixed in there. But no, yeah, you would never hear it unless the vocals were isolated. But just all that, I love the DIY organic punk rock process. It's hard to do in the digital age because everything is perfect, everything is synced up and quantized, and everything is just all. And while I did record everything to a click, um, the guitars and stuff like that. There's moments where the guitars are just slightly out of tune with each other, and I love that. I didn't want to change that. I didn't want to overthink the performances, and so it is what it is, and it's got flaws, and I like it. But us as human beings, we have flaws. As people, you could be the nicest person in the world and still have a lot of flaws. It's important not to hide those flaws musically. I think that sometimes the happy accidents are the things that have longevity. There's a lot of moments on classic records of things that happened accidentally. They got left on the record that people can't imagine living without. I think "Driven to Tears" from The Police, the beginning of that song, Sting accidentally sits on a piano while he's waiting to do his vocal. He's waiting, and he sat on the piano and it recorded it, and he started laughing, and that's at the very beginning of the song. And I always thought it was like this cool moment that they must have thought about that, man. I wish I would think of something cool like that. It sounds so, impulsive, but it was an accident and they just left it. So anyway, that's kind of how this whole thing was made, man. Just very, very DIY. And but having the ability to do that allows you to experiment with those kinds of things. Like being able to, last record, I mean, it's $100 an hour to go into a big studio. So when you go in and you don't have a lot of money, so if you're working on something, you'll tend to cut corners because that I don't have enough time to sit and work on this anymore. So I'm just gonna have to go with this. Whereas I did, so while I was doing things spontaneously, at least if I wanted to, I had time to fix it if I wanted to. I never, I like I said, about 85% of what you hear on the album is bang, 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 here it is. And I feel like I had to do that in order to get it out. And, but man, just being able to record at home when I was a kid, like 18, 19 years old, if I would have had what I have now to be able to record and have it be so listenable, fuck, I would have albums and albums of material. Because right now I'm sitting on hours of high quality riffs and in many cases songs. So I don't know what I'm going to do with them all, because there's other songs too outside of this Till the Dirt template that I wrote that are, I don't know what the fuck to do with them. You know what I mean? I would give them to somebody. If I find a really cool singer, like, here, sing on this, and let them take it and be their, their band or whatever. So it's been nice and I literally still now, it's just part of my evening process. Like I sit down, turn on the, roll up a few tracks and smoke a bowl and play my guitar and just record whatever I'm sitting down. And so that helps me a lot because I don't remember, like if I wasn't recording, I wouldn't remember half of the things that I play. So it's nice to have that backup, an extra brain to help me remember things, but also putting things together, that I wouldn't normally put together if I had to deal with 4 other people in a band. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, that can be really trying, if you have a vision of something you want, but you've got to appease everybody else in the band. You can't just be like, oh, I can't steamroll through it. A band is a band, and it's a democracy. Usually it should be. And so that element of songwriting becomes different automatically because now you got to, if one guy thinks it's lame, now even if the other guys think it's great, everybody's kind of second guessing. Well, is he right and we're all wrong, or is he wrong and we're all right? You know what I mean? All that second guessing is bad for music. You got to fucking do it, bam, and move on.
Yeah, and I'm curious that now when you went in and put on, I guess, the final touches, did you re-record the entire album, or how much of that stuff that made the final cut is still what you recorded in its original form?
All the vocals are all in their original form. All of my guitars are, let's see, all the guitar. Yeah, everything is okay. So I did all the guitars on the demos. So I would do like 4 tracks of guitars and basically 2 aside, and play the harmony and whatever. And I would leave the solos. I was having other people do the solos. I would lay down a solo just for to know where the solo was, and then have somebody much better than me play. the solos on the album. And but yeah, all of my guitar performances are original. I didn't go back and fix. Really, I can't think of anything that went back and all we did was really mix it in a proper studio. So I had mixes that I did on my laptop essentially, and those are the demos. And that's what got Scott involved. And so once we had the other musicians come in and play the parts that I had already written, they played. We added two more guitar tracks, and then obviously Yoav did most of the bass. We had a couple of guests on a couple of songs, and I sent one track to John Longstreth. He sent me the drums back, and we flew them in under the guitar part. So yeah, I would say again 85-90%. The only thing that really changed were solos. It's just kind of trying to find the right solos. So, but all the rhythm stuff was captured in those nights. Now, the other guys that played my parts, my parts are still on the album, so my playing is still there. And the other guys, I don't know what their tracking process was or what headspace they were in, but essentially they did a really great job of just playing exactly what I had laid down. And then we just left all the guitars in there because at one point I was going to take my guitars out and I was like, fuck it, leave mine in there. You know what I mean? Which are also probably not nearly as good as the other guys that played on the album. You know what I mean? But I like the flaw of that. You know what I mean? I like the fact that I'm not, virtuoistic or what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not I'm more of I bend in a different way. And, I mean, it's hard to explain, but so I thought I would leave them on there. And so yeah, they're all of my stuff anyway. All the stuff I did is all that evening of writing the song.
Yeah. Which I find remarkable because, the temptation would be, maybe I could do this now, or I could do that now, or maybe I could, embellish upon this, but you just fucking kept it pure, which I think was a ballsy move. And I think it paid off. I mean, it's raw and aggressive. I mean, and obviously it doesn't sound like what people would think like of a Scott Burns album, which I think is the
No,
piece behind it, is that it doesn't sound like the old Morrisound stuff, right? And I love all of that, so that's not a diss on any level. I just think that for him to kind of come out and say, yeah, I want to put these touches on it and make it sound like this, it's just fucking rad, dude.
thanks, man. I hope the world agrees. But
Well,
if not, listen, if they don't, that's cool, man. I'm proud of it, and I know that I at least moved the needle a little bit. I mean, and so I'm proud of the way that it came out. I look forward to having making some more records for this band for sure, because it allows me to be everybody I want to be. What I mean? But I also want to say, and I've said in a couple of other interviews, that it's important to know that I understand the difference between Atheist and Till the Dirt. Like when we go to make the new Atheist record, rest assured, it's not going to sound like anything like Till the Dirt. And for a number of reasons. One of which I can count on is the tuning of the guitars. All the guitars on the Till the Dirt record are tuned really oddly. F sharp, B, F sharp. I forget what the next string was. I think D, yeah, B, F sharp, D. And so that's an unusual tuning for guitar. So immediately it sounds way lower and way more different than Atheist, which is at 440E. So right out of the gate, the guitars sound way different on Atheist than they do with Till the Dirt. And also, as I chuckle about Church and State, I know how to keep them separate. And so for all the people out there, they're like, oh, he's gonna have clean vocals on the new Atheist album. No, I'm not.
no,
There'll be no clean vocals on the new Atheist album.
and it's and why would you? And I mean, you're not going to mess with that formula. Obviously, there's a certain amount of people expect a certain thing, branding, if you will. I mean, this is Atheist, this is not Atheist, and I think that's what actually makes it great. And when I was talking with Todd Latore a while back, and I was like, hey, it's amazing how much this album doesn't sound like Queensryche. He's like, yeah, why the fuck would I do that? Why would I shit where I eat? It's like it's two different things. And so yeah, Till the Dirt does not sound like Atheist. There might be some reminiscent factors kind of here and there as oh hey, check this out, but yeah, I
Yeah,
can't.
I wrote a lot of the guitar parts in the Atheist music. So every now and then you're going to hear a riff that goes, oh, or a style for Sarah, or yeah, I mean, I guess a style or a way of doing things, the way I harmonized guitars maybe might be similar to an Atheist thing, but short of that, overall, it's definitely uniquely different.
Yeah. And that's awesome. So and clearly there's more to come. So I think we have this album, which now is basically, by the time that everybody hears this on the airwaves, will be released to the world in its large scale format. So what is it that, I guess, what do you want people to take away with them about Till the Dirt? If you had anything you could just say, hey, listen, this is what this band is, what do you want people to walk away with?
It's the way it was created is very organic and real and honest, which is really hard to do in a lab these days. You know what I mean, so to speak. Again, when you're working with lots of other people, it's just there's a lot of opinions that go into most of the music you hear today. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of well, I think this, I think that. There's band members, there's managers, there's all that. This record was literally just a guy and a bottle of Jaeger and some weed and isolation of COVID. It's literally how this shit happened. So it's very uniquely, it's almost like an old school way of making whiskey compared to the way Jack Daniels makes it. You know what I mean? It's very backwoods and old school. And I think that there's a charm in that. So I hope people will, not expect some big grandioso production, and just, listen, if people come away feeling like, you know what, I didn't used to like extreme metal, but I love 90s Seattle and I love what you're doing there. And so now I'm actually able to listen to faster music as a result of that. I would love that to be the effect, to pull some new people into, because most people will be like, oh, I don't like super fast music. Well, you don't know. It just depends on how it's done, and I feel like, there's some moments on this record where there's clean, cool vocals, melodic vocals, harmony vocals, even over the top of really a lot of speed. And I think that somebody who's not typically accustomed to liking speed might find themselves digging it, and that's cool. And it might turn them into fans of other bands that deserved their attention before but didn't get it because they've been written off for being death metal or deathcore or whatever shit is called these days, and all the different branches on the tree of metal. But so I would hope that of course I want to be longevity. I want the record to be around when my son is 50 years old. You know what I mean? I want him to be like, yeah, so fucking still a classic record. You know what I mean? I hope that believe me, man, we made Piece of Time. I never thought we'd be talking about it fucking 35 years later. So when I think about this, I have to think, that's my ultimate goal, is that this will be around way after me, and we'll reach people and touch people long after I'm gone. That's a big thing, because it was written with that terror. Because during COVID, I had, as a smoker of 35 years, I thought, holy shit, this might be it. If I get this COVID shit, I lost 6 friends, and they were healthier than me. And it just ate their respiratory system up. And I thought, oh man, so I didn't go anywhere. I didn't go to the grocery store. I didn't go nowhere, man. I was terrified. And that also infiltrated into my lyrics, especially, there's a song in there called Watch You Grow Old. It's just about how I wish I could watch my little boy grow old. I wish I could watch him grow up, get married, have kids. And you know what I mean? I had him at a very late age, but I'm not ready. I wasn't ready to go then, because of some stupid virus. And so there was some of that feeling in there. So anyway, that's the long answer of, I guess I just hope that matters to people. I hope that it's not just a record that goes in one ear and out the other. And I don't feel like it will be, but yeah, I'm excited about it.
And if all goes well, as it should, at some point, plans to play shows.
Yeah, that's going to be the really exciting part, because of the unique nature of the way this was made. These songs have never been performed in a live capacity. You know what I mean? I only for the first time heard the song played completely with Ian Way did the guitar playthrough for Starring Role, which is on YouTube now. Go check it out. Ian's amazing. He plays Insurrection as well. I met him on tour with we were out with Suffocation, but tremendous Canadian guitar player. And he did the playthrough, and that's the first time I saw somebody play. I didn't see myself play through, So I, you know, watching him play, it was like fucking awesome. So I can't imagine how these songs will take even more life, you know, when we put them on stage. I think songs like Invitation, I don't know if you remember that song on there. Invitation is like a really fucking heavy song. I just think could be anthemic in
Very
a live setting.
almost kind of god fleshy in parts. Very, very heavy. Yeah.
I really love the vibe of that song. I think that song live, Forest of Because, I think could be a fucking banger live. Like, well, all of them, you know, I mean, you know, songs are, you know, songs in a studio and songs on stage are definitely two different animals. So that's an unknown, exciting element to look forward to. But yeah, by all means, I would love to do the touring. Now, a lot of people have said, well, you should tour together with Atheists. I was like, no, 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 no. Oh, definitely keep them separate. You know what I mean? They're really different headspaces, you know, completely different headspaces.
Yeah, I mean, other than the fact that there's a little bit of crossover with some current members at any particular point in
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Three of the guys are in the band with me. Three of the Atheist guys that are with me are in Till the Dirt with me, and so it's definitely possible. So I mean, we could play very well next festival season. Play a festival show with Atheist on a Friday and play with Till the Dirt on Saturday. You know what I mean? And just so I have a day in between to get my head into that space. You know, I mean, but I really wish that I, you know, really hope, and I've been trying in my head to try to think of a different visual approach to this band as well. You know, I don't know what it's going to look like, you know, but I kind of just don't want to roll out there and, you know, the same way, you know. I love to experiment with a different lighting and you know, I just want the, you know, if these songs sound the way they do on the record in a theater, like, you know, if we can translate them and make them sound like that or better, I think it'll be just take some heads off, you know, and I think in a really modern way, it'll give us opportunities to play with bands that atheists wouldn't be able to play with, and play on bills that we wouldn't be welcome on. So I look forward to those opportunities as well, you know.
And so you'd be ready to go, you know, with the right promotion, you know, the right
Oh, yeah.
place. You guys you're ready to tear it up then.
Yeah, the band's in place, and it's really just a matter of waiting for the opportunity. And I mean, the lineup you just saw in Seattle of Atheist, um, I've only had for 6 months.
Ah, man.
You know, in 6 months, they all on their own learned, you know, 95% of it than we got in a room in San Diego, and I fine tuned it all on the parts that they were, you know, that maybe weren't playing right or playing quite the way they are in the album. And we had 4 or 5 rehearsals, and that band just fucking killed it. You know, when top-notch musicians, man, when you're playing with really really good players, like it's easy. You know, and they make it so easy. And it was not that way when we were kids, man. It was real hard to find even one person to play on a level like that. But yeah, they just tab shit out, and yeah, kids today are just I love playing with young guys, man. They're just so talented and so easy to work with, and you can just be like, hey, I need you to learn all this stuff, you know, and we're gonna do it like this, and they go, okay, you know, and they kill it, you know, and they have such a level of quality to their playing that you know, it made those atheist songs sound better than they've ever sounded, especially from Elements. You know, the Elements album has a questionable production, you know, a little weird kind of digital. You know what I mean? It's a weird sounding record, but those songs live, man, are like whoa. You know, they're way heavier and they take on a different vibe, and those guys play the shit out of it too. So that was something I learned on this last tour with Cynic, that I want to play some more of those songs, you know, and play them because those are songs we haven't really. Fire, the song "Fire" is a
Was
song that's never been on stage before, but man, it works live. You know, it works great. So
yeah.
I can't wait to see what Till the Dirt will be like. You know, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
So what's the best way for the people out there in the world to support Till the Dirt? How do they get their music? How do they find
You can stream it later, but buy the goddamn thing. You know, buy the CD, buy the vinyl. The clear vinyl is really good. The artwork's tremendous. Santiago Jaramillo at Triple Seis Designs did the cover. Scott Burns produced it. Ryan Vincent mixed it. It's fucking, it's banging top to bottom. You know, there's not a shitty song on it. Get the record, man. You know, I mean, Spotify is convenient and cool, but man, it's just killing music. It's killing musicians. And so, and there's nothing like holding on to the disc or the vinyl. You know what I mean? So I would encourage people to, if you're going to buy one record this year, buy this one, please. You know, Nuclear Blast, and yeah, it's it's hard to make records these days. So that would be my number one encouragement would be to at least buy one form of it, be it the vinyl or the CD.
Absolutely. Physical merch is where it's at. Nuclear Blast, they do a great job with all
Yeah,
of the packaging, with all of their promotion, and they really they support their acts
yeah,
more than the average label. And so yeah, definitely. I mean, I've got the album on pre-order myself, even though I'm in the media, so I got the cool EPK, but nothing like holding the album in your hand and reading the liner notes old school style and looking at the artwork and having all the cool shit. Yeah, you guys, buy this fucking album, support my friend Kelly, and
yeah.
everything he does. I mean, it's just he puts his heart and soul into everything. And so I am a fan of this particular band. I'm a fan of everything that Kelly stands for and really what he's put into this. So I promise you, there's no disappointment with Till the Dirt. Kelly, any final words you want to leave out there with the Misery Point Radio listeners tonight?
Yeah, by the time you see this, you should be able to check out the third lyric video. We made a really cool lyric video for Privilege. So look that up on hit all of our socials, please, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And yeah, let's make it a special outing. And I look forward to seeing everybody out on the road. Tell your friends about it. Add it to your Spotify playlist. All that shit.
Yeah.
And I'll see everybody out on the road real soon. I can't wait to see each and every one of you, man. I love touring. I love meeting everybody. So as long as you don't knock on the bus door at fucking 12 o'clock or 11:30, I'm cool with it.
And
Thanks, Mike, so much, man, for all your support for the last couple of years. I really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to hanging out with you again, my friend.
hell yeah, brother. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kelly Shaefer, Atheist, and of course, Till the Dirt. Thank you, everybody out there in the wasteland. We'll be talking to you again real soon. And for those of you listening on the radio station, we're going to have a pretty badass playlist kind of coming up for you. So you guys hang tight, and we'll take good sonic care of you later on, guys. Kelly, thanks again, brother.
Thanks for having me. I'll see you, buddy.